What's up, Zwifters, and welcome back to another Zwift race analysis video. Today I'm going to be talking all about my race in stage 3 of the McCurry May, which is on the castle to castle route. Now in this race, I did try something that I don't really do in Zwift races, and I think you all should be trying this in your Zwift races too, if you do find yourself in a similar situation. I'm talking all about that later on in the video, once we get to that part of the video. But first things first, this race does use the Zwift racing score categories. So I was in the 330 to 450 racing score category. I hadn't raced in Zwift in a really long time, so I wasn't really sure which category was best for me. I was recommended in the category that a score of 290 puts me in, but I decided to race a category up from that since I felt like I had the fitness to do that. Alright, so diving right into the race, you can see here that I'm currently in 5th place. We have only 5 riders in this race, which is a really small race. And this is because I'm doing it around 9 p.m. West Coast time, which is around the Zwift dead time, I like to call it, because pretty much nobody is riding on Zwift, and the races are overall just really dead, and you're going to find yourself often in races of like 2 to 3 people, which is honestly kind of boring. But I decided to try to make it interesting. Early in the race, I'd already done quite a few attacks and little sprints to try and see like who was willing to follow me and who my competition was for this race. So with 1.7 miles left in the race, I knew that this would either come down to a finishing sprint or I could try to do something a little different. And I was thinking that maybe I would try to give the race a little bit of a jump and see who was going to follow me, if anyone would follow me at all. And you can see here one rider already deploys their power up. I'm sitting in a great position with my arrow power up and I'm very happy with that. So I'm thinking that maybe I'll do a small attack and try and see if anyone follows me, and I'll try to like tire the other riders out so I have a better chance in the finishing sprint, since I know I don't have the strongest sprint in the group. As you can see by my power profile at the bottom of the screen and by my heart rate, I'm relatively relaxed right now, and I am not really in too much pain, and everything is still pretty relaxed. I have a good amount of energy left for this little finishing kick that I'm going to give it to see who will follow me. You can see here that I immediately sprint to like 700 watts, and I just go flying through the group here, and nobody really responds. You can see here the numbers are still around 4 to 5 watts per kilogram, which simply isn't going to be enough to like latch onto my draft. And at this point, I'm trying to decide, like, do I fully commit to this, or do I try and wait back and see if they will catch back up, and hopefully they'll use some of their energy. However, since none of them are really chasing that hard and nobody's really dedicated an effort to try to chase me down, I'm like, okay, I've got 5 seconds here and I can try to make this a full-on breakaway for the win. So at this point, I'm relatively committed to the break, and as long as nobody immediately starts to like hunt me down with like an 8 watt per kilogram surge, which I don't really see coming from this group, I'm just going to go ahead and commit to this, and I'm just going to settle in here around 250 to 280 watts, and that is like a solid around 5 watts per kilogram for me, since I am a very light rider, and I am still just settled into this rhythm, and I'm here going around 27 miles per hour, and I'm just watching the gap to make sure that like nobody's really closing it down, to make sure my gap is still either growing or maintaining. And as of right now, it is, and things are honestly looking really good for me with only around 1 mile left in this race. You can see here that I'm about to turn on my arrow boost, since I know that like I'm starting to lose speed here and I'm down to around 26 miles per hour, so I might as well use that arrow boost since I see that there's another sprint coming up. So I want to use it right now so I can get like potentially another arrow boost, and that would just help me like even more solidify my break and make sure that I can really just hold a high speed and fend off the group, since they're still in a little tight bunch, so they have the advantage in terms of the draft, and I don't have anyone to draft behind where I'm at right now. So things are looking pretty lonely for me. I know that I'm gonna have to solo it all the way to the end, so every single power up is going to count. Now at this point, I think they've sort of given up their chase, or at least that's what I was thinking in this moment. So I was sort of settled in and still really pushing hard. You can see here my heart rate's getting up to around 194, 195, which is the highest it's been like with my recent cycling. And running, I feel like, has really helped with my aerobics, and I don't really find myself in this sort of high heart rate as you can see me in right now. So this is definitely a hard effort for me, and I am starting to feel it in my legs. The legs are burning, and you can see here riders start to give a chase here. That rider right behind me is starting to chase at around 5 to 6 watts per kilogram, so that's what gets me a little bit worried. So I turn on my arrow boost to try to get my speed back up so I can sort of hold that momentum until the finish. You can see here at around 0.4 miles left, I don't really see them catching up, since it is like still quite a big gap for them to close down. They would need to close down 10 seconds in the span of around a quarter mile, which is simply like, it's just not enough room for them to really hunt me down, especially since I haven't really faded that much and I'm still pushing at a relatively steady rate. Now, as I'm coming through this final stretch, I'm really happy because this is one of my first Zwift races back, and I wasn't really expecting to take the win here, and I wasn't expecting to find myself in this situation at all. And you can see here, I'm just giving it everything I've got left in the tank here, try to finish off this race. We've got less than 1,000 feet left, and I'm just hammering to the finish line to try and finish it off with a good gap and make sure that I don't have anyone just fly right by me in the last moment. And I know that that's probably not going to happen, but I always want to be on the safe side, especially when I'm in a solo break in such a good situation. Now, I easily could have just waited it out and let that come down to a bunch sprint, but honestly, I think it makes things a lot more interesting when you try to take a risk in a Zwift race, especially since Zwift races are so low stakes most of the time. And I think that it really did help that I found a group that I could actually do a breakaway with, because in most situations, you're going to find yourself with a bunch of around 20 to 30 riders, and it's just really hard to get away and out of their draft, since the draft is going to overpower you so much when there's a larger group. But since I knew that there was only 5 people, I knew that my chances of going off solo would be pretty high, because they don't have as strong of a draft with each other. And if one person doesn't pull, I think there's a very strong chance that nobody's going to pull in that group. And honestly, it ends up being a little bit of a spiral effect, and it just makes things even better for the person trying the breakaway, which was me in this case. So if you ever find yourself in a pretty small race of around 10 riders or less, I think the chances of a breakaway succeeding are even higher than they normally are on Zwift. So I'd highly recommend you go give it a try in your next Zwift race if you find yourself in that situation. It made things a lot more fun for me, and it really was a fun experience, and it pushed me to my limits rather than just waiting it out until a bunch sprint for a 15-second max effort. I got a solid 5-minute effort in at the end there. And with that, thank you all for watching. If you learned something or found this video entertaining, please leave a like, subscribe. It really does help support the channel. And with that, thank you all for watching, and ride on. See you on the next one.